What's up, YouTube? Today I'm here to show you how to do axle on a Honda CR-V. And while we're in there, I'm going to also show you how to do an axle seal too. And the reason why we're doing this axle seal because it's leaking. Look under here. See all that oil build up? It's starting to leak from the axle seal. So when we pull the axle, we got to pull this intermediate shaft too, because it doesn't come out with the axle. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Anyway, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is take off the center axle nut. Now this is a Honda, so it's a 36 millimeter. Most Hondas are 36 millimeters. Take that off. Now I'm going to take your caliper off. Get that out of the way. First we're going to take the brake line out of the way. That way the caliper can hang further down and get out of your way. It's a 12 millimeter. This is a CR-V. Most of your CR-Vs, even the early models, are going to have a similar setup to this one. The caliper bolts on this are going to be 19 millimeter. You got an impact 19. Now you can use whatever 19 you have. Wrench or socket. These bolts are usually pretty tight, so it's best to use something torquey. Yeah. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, we've already taken our axle nut off. So the next thing we're going to do is take the ABS sensor out of the way. Let's pull it out of there. And normally this would have like a little zip tie around it, but it's missing. Take your 10 millimeter bolt out of your ABS sensor. Lean that to the side. Alright, now that we got all that out of the way, you're going to take your lower ball joint loose. It's a 17 millimeter. Now we're going to go grab a pry bar. Push down on the control arm with your hand. Pry that out of your way. Alright, now you're nice and freed up. Now grab a hammer. Now if you're reusing the axle, which I'm not, I'm changing it because the axle's clicking when you're turning, you can take your nut. This is a new axle, so I got a new nut with it. You can screw it on a couple threads and hit the nut. That way it doesn't damage the threads if you're reusing it. If you're not reusing it, it doesn't matter. Alright, now we got all that out of the way. Gonna go up in the air a little bit. Just high enough to get underneath it to get this axle out. Grab your hammer and your pry bar. Let me get a flashlight so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to take your pry bar and put it right behind the axle. And we're going to hit the axle. Just till it starts to separate from that center bearing on the intermediate shaft. And get your axle. I'm changing that, so just toss it to the side if you're changing it. If not, don't toss it. Set it down gently. Alright, now there's 3 14mm bolts that are in kind of a tight spot that you have to take off to get the center bearing off, and it bolts to the back of the engine block. Let's see. Use a combination of stuff here. Sorry. A reducer. I know this looks crazy, but it works. Let me get my flashlight again so I can see what I'm doing. On that nut. Take your impact. One. This one up top. Way back there. Alright, we're on it. Sorry you can't see better, but you get the gist. Grab it off the floor. Now these nuts are all going to be probably the same, so it doesn't matter where you put them. We got one more right there. Alright. Now, might be able to get my hand in there. Spin it the rest of the way out. Sorry, I'm all over the place, but I want y'all to be able to see what I'm doing. See what I'm doing. Alright, now this one's different. Notice these have dowels on them. This one goes on the bottom. So just notate that when you're doing this. Alright, now that that's loose, you should be able to grab it and pull it right out of the transmission. Just like that. Set that aside. Don't drop it because you can damage it, especially those splines right there, because you got to reuse that. Alright, now the axle seal right there. Before you pull it out, size your seal up. Make sure it looks right, and it does. And another trick you can do for the center of it, because this goes into the seal, slide it over right here, the raised part, see if it fits nice and smooth. Make sure the center's the right size, and it does. Okay, now I feel confident we can go ahead and pull the old seal out. And you probably want to get the seal from the dealership because it'll be right. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten aftermarket seals and they're wrong, and then the vehicle's all tore apart. I've already pulled the old seal out, and then my bay is tied down with the car until I get the right seal. So I've learned not to pull these until I know for sure they're right. Take your little pry bar, put it underneath the lip of the seal, just pop it out, just like that. Alright. I can give y'all some light here so you can see what I'm doing. Just never know where to put your light. Let's try this light. This one's a magnetic little stick. There we go. Make sure it's nice and clean in there. You can take you a little bit of trans fluid from where it's leaking out at. Rub it around the seal. Put a little bit on the inside too. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can press this in by hand without having to use a seal installer. Nice and even, pushing just till that lip goes in. Want it even on all four corners. It's perfect to me. And when I get done, I'm going to spray all this down with brake cleaner and test drive it and pull it back in to make sure it's not leaking no more. Alright, now we can get our intermediate shaft and put it back in. Now while this is out, you want to wipe that off for any dust or debris that might damage the new seal. And also look at it closely to make sure it's not scored, because if it's all scored up, which this one's not, you'll have to replace this or the new seal will leak. But very rarely do I see that happen, and if that does happen, it could possibly have internal transmission damage. Now we're going to slide this back in. Make sure you put the bottom. Alright, that's how it goes. You're going to go from the front of the car, stick it in the hole right there, come over to this side. There you go. Just till it goes in. Alright. I'm going to start the bottom corner bolt first because it's the easiest one to get to. Try to screw it all the way down by hand. Alright, don't tighten it till you get all three started. I can reach up there. You can see. Alright, that one started. Now this bottom one. If you're crafty enough, you can get your hand in there and start it. Or if you can't, just put it on the socket with your extension. Now these bolts, they're like a guide bolt. They have dowels built onto them. So just make sure you get it screwed in far enough to where the dowels start to go into the holes. So when you bolt it down, it doesn't get cocked. Alright, now we can tighten them. With our wicket set up, we have here. There went my light, but it's shockproof. Tighten those two that have like a dowel on them first, because they guide that bearing straight when you tighten them down. All right. To the last bolt. Alright, that one's tight. Because I was at such an angle on that last bolt, I'm going to check it with my wrench. I'm not worried about the other ones, I know they're tight. Alright, now grab your new axle. Now normally if that axle seal wouldn't have went in with my fingers, I would have used a seal installer. It's an adjustable one. Bought that off the Matco tool truck, but you can buy these online too. Amazon sells them. It's like 50 bucks. You can adjust it to any size seal. It's pretty nice. Just kind of swing that out of your way. Alright. Now get that lined up. See the tires turning? So that tells me it's on the splines. Alright. Now I'll go over here and turn this wheel out of my way. That'll help move this out of your way on the other side. We know it started on the splines because it turns the other side. So this is the part I was talking about earlier. Because this is a new axle, we don't want to damage the threads. Spin it on there. Take your hammer. Boom. so it's nice and seated. Alright. Now put your axle in the bearing. Okay. Now start your nut. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that. And you want to take your hammer crease that, because if it gets loose, that'll keep it from spinning. There we go. Now, get out of the way. Pull down. You can do it by hand. Line your ball joint bolts back up. Boom. Start your ball joint bolts. Grab your 17. Nice and tight. Make sure your backing plate didn't get bent. Now we can put our caliper back on. Oh, don't know where my swivel 19 went. There it is. It's black, so it blends right in with my roll cart. Alright. Tighten your caliper bolts. Nice and tight. Now put your 12mm brake line nut back on. Turn your wheel back out. Your ABS sensor back in the hole. Grab your 10 bolt. There you go. Not too tight because you'll break it. That's a little bolt, and the sensor's plastic, you'll break that too if you're not careful. Put that back in there. Now, I'm not really worried about a zip tie because that's not going nowhere. Unless you just want to put a long zip tie around the strut. It's not long enough to even rub anything, but I'll go to the other side and show you what I'm talking about. See up there? Alright, well, that's how you do it. Just put your wheel back on and torque her down. The lug nuts are 90 foot-pounds on a Honda. I do always torque wheels. Don't want a wheel off. Alright, well, I hope this video was informative. I hope all y'all stay safe. Try to avoid this coronavirus. I'm still working because I'm an essential employee. But it is good to have a job. Other people have it really bad right now. So God bless y'all. Y'all have a good day. Peace out, YouTube. Check a like.